Okay, I got an intro in my head, but it may not turn out okay, but I'm just going to try it, okay? Are you moving, building a new home? Is your husband starting a new job? Are you sending a child to college? Have you planned any retreats lately or are busy at work? Yeah, Dee Dee has too, and we're going to talk about all of it today. Let's talk about life changes, overwhelm that happens, and how not to get stuck in that overwhelm. So I have to admit, I have had to use some of my coaching techniques on myself lately because I have found myself in the last 3 weeks feeling funky a little more than usual. You know, there's a lot going on in this world right now.
Right. Yeah.
And I have had to battle to set some my own guardrails with myself, with social media, with conversations with other people, in order to try to keep myself from being in that funky place. It's really easy to get overwhelmed right now if we don't keep an eye on what we're consuming, what we're doing, how we're committing our time, and to whom we're committing our time. So I thought this was a great topic today because you have a lot going on right now. I think you mentioned a couple podcasts ago that you have lots of life changes, in what I would consider major life changes. On that list, is there a list somewhere of the top 10 most stressful things you can do in your life? She's covering quite a few of them. And it's easy to get overwhelmed. And unless you are able to walk yourself through it, unless you're able to cope with things properly. I think this would be a great time because there's a lot of overwhelm going on everywhere, but for you to share how you are able to assist your many life changes and how you don't get or stay in that place of overwhelm.
Yes. Okay. This is a great topic to bring to the table. And it's something that I have to remind myself of because we do have a lot of life changes happening right now. We're moving. We're selling our house. So this is actually going to be our last podcast in this location, which is a little bittersweet.
It is. It's where it all began.
So we are moving moving out of our house within the next couple of weeks. So we're going to start packing. My husband retired and is starting a new job. Our youngest moved to college. And we just not our youngest. Our youngest is in 6th grade. Our middle daughter, Kelsey, just moved to college. And we're also trying to develop a piece of property, and we have run into one obstacle after the other with that project, and it's a lot. I have taken back on the role, and I'm super excited about it, of teaching our adult Sunday school class, and really excited about that. I did that for many years. About 5 years ago, I stepped out of it to work more in the children's ministry and the youth ministry. And now's the time to go back to that opportunity. So a lot of life changes and a ton of uncertainty of what life will look like in 1 month from now. So one of the things that I have definitely implemented, which is a coaching technique, is breathing techniques. Being aware of when I'm feeling like I'm holding my breath during the day and taking those deep breaths and that calm your body, calm your mind. And one thing that's a huge skill in my life that helps with this may sound stupid, is making a list and learning the power of sublisting.
Okay.
So not just putting things on a list, like clean the house, pay bills. I'm trying to think of general things that would be on a list, like
run errands.
Run errands, yes. Divide it up. So my list is divided up by personal. What are personal things I need to do within my house? The Fits company. What are things I need to do within Fits? Live Your Design. What are things that we need to do there? And Village at Simmons Cove on that development. Like very specific. CUMC, Chapin Intermediate. I volunteer at the school some. And in my list, I have it listed out with those subheadings, but instead of saying, for instance, run errands, I would list exactly where I needed to go. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things is, if we just keep a running to-do list in our head, it takes up our bandwidth. Just trying to remember what we need to do takes up bandwidth in our mind. And a lot of people who say, no, I just keep my list in my head, I've often found those are the people that are afraid to write it down because it feels overwhelming to see it on paper.
So just to even stop and talk about that, about the bandwidth in our head. So that'd be the amount of energy that we have, and we have that energy to give somewhere. And when you are just having lists in your head, then you're thinking about them, contemplating them, getting ready to get ready, getting overwhelmed by them. Each emotion that you have about the things in your head, you hand energy to them.
Absolutely.
Instead of using the energy in order to get the task done. So what I love that you're saying this. What you're saying is, I want it down on paper and I want to be super specific because I don't want to give any of the energy I have to to remembering, processing, and thinking about them. I need the energy going to crossing those tasks off the list.
Yes. Imagine yourself on a little hamster wheel in your head. When you say, I'm just going to remember these things, your little legs are just running up there. Your little brain is just continually running, trying to remember, when I go by the post office, I need to put these envelopes in the mailbox. And when I go to the grocery store, I need to get stamps. That's not something I typically buy at the grocery store. So that needs to go on the list, stamps, You spend a ton of mental energy just trying to remember things that you can put on a list, and then it's out of your mind. You put the energy, like you said, to taking care of them.
And then if you, because you're keeping it in your mind, if you miss something, don't do it right, then you hand more energy over to being disappointed in the fact that you didn't get it right the first time around.
Yes. Absolutely.
There was a quote that I heard not very long ago, and I'm excited I wrote it down, but I'm excited I can throw it in here. It was the pastor Louis Giglio had a quote on a podcast I listened to, and he said, great organization makes big things look easy. So it's not that, so you're doing a lot of big things right now. I mean, these are not everything she didn't even list out. Like you are doing a lot of things, but you make them look easy, and it's not because they are easy. It's because you've created organization in order for you to knock things off your list and not give your energy to thinking about getting them done, but actually getting them done.
Yes. And when I start to feel overwhelmed and doubt and fear creep in, is when I'm not being proactive with it. When I'm not keeping that list active, when I'm not addressing a fear that pops up and I just try to press it down, like about moving and the place we're moving to. And if fear around what does that look like, and is it going to be terrible, or allowing those types of questions to pop up in my head, that is where the fear and overwhelm comes. But yeah, he's so right, because it looks easy when you have a plan for it and when it's organized. And people will say things like, I don't know how you do it all. And you're like, please don't say that, because
I think I just said that to you last week. So
yeah.
Sorry.
No, but it's like, it's not easy. You know what I mean? And but then you see it in somebody else. You're like, I don't know how they do that. They make it look so easy. But oftentimes it's because they have a system or they have skills or they've been trained. But I think it's important not to allow yourself to feel badly about yourself if you wake up feeling overwhelmed, or if sleep is leaving you because you can't turn your mind off at night, or you run out for an afternoon sweet treat to give you a perk. Like, just realize those things aren't going to serve you well. And so make changes so that you can be effective, and don't beat yourself up over a bad decision, or don't worry about not being able to sleep, because that's just going to make you sleep less.
Well, one of the things that I have to compliment you on is when you are with someone or in a project or doing something, you are you're present. You're very present when you're there. So if you're having lunch with a friend, you are present with them in that lunch. If you're doing a task at work, you're very present in the task that you're doing at work. And because you have created some systems, like the tip that you gave our listeners about not just making general task notes, but you write things down, but you do it specifically, you're able to be present in every one of those things. You have just as many hours in the day as I do, or just as many hours in the day as other people do. We do all have different tasks, but when you're able to organize yourself and be present each time, you don't feel like you're not spending time in passing your energy onto emotions of guilt, of not giving someone what they need, or confusion because you don't know where you're going to go next. Your energy is very specifically allotted. And part of that is being present with the people. And you have taught that to me. Like, I've been able to see that through you. It doesn't matter how many things you have on the list. If I'm on the schedule, if I'm in that time slot for you, you're present with me. And then when we're done, you're able to go on to the next thing. And there's no confusion on what that next thing is.
You're sweet to say that, so thank you. But I was thinking the same thing about you. You are skilled at being present in that conversation and in that moment. And I think maybe that's one thing that makes our friendship so nice, is because when we show up, I'm talking with you, and I'm not talking to the top of your head because you're looking at your phone. And we're engaging in conversation, not just you make a comment and I'm like, or I make a comment and you're like, yeah, I know. Like, there's thought around it and there's response to it. And I see that same thing in you. In fact, I saw it over the retreat weekend when we were on our marriage retreat a few weeks ago. And after we had dinner, and then we went to this little bar that had this outdoor courtyard. It was really cute. But Ben wanted your attention, and you were engaged in another conversation, and you were going to finish that conversation and then turn your attention to Ben. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew he was calling your name, and I was like, oh, I thought he must have needed you, and I tapped you on the arm, and you gave a symbol, like 1 minute. And then Ben said, she'll never interrupt a conversation. And I was like, interesting. Like, first of all, if you knew that.
It drives him crazy, actually, though.
But that is an attribute. That's an admirable attribute.
Did you hear that, Ben? It's an attribute.
Yes. Because you're saying what you have to say matters to me. Now, if it had been an emergency situation,
of course,
you would have known. But...
And I think the value is that you don't leave, you're not scattered. Like, your energies are not scattered.
Right. And if you are present in what you're working on, you can work on it and finish it. Instead of, okay, let me just get a little bit of information here. Okay, I need to do this. I need to do that. No, just be present in that. And then if you need to create content around something, let's say you're having a marketing meeting and you say, okay, we need to create content around this new product. Okay, what do we want the content to be? Take the extra time. What do we want to get across to the buyer? Put down those things on your list. Keep that notebook. Carry that book with you that has your daily list on it and your notes. At least get some ideas down. That doesn't mean you're going to write a whole brochure right then, but you're doing a brain dump. Get those ideas down. Okay, now my brain is clear. My brain is clear to move on to the next thing. And if you need to make phone calls, write down the calls you need to make. And then make those calls and mark them off. And if you left a voicemail, then you don't just mark off that you made the phone call. You add a new task. Follow up because of voicemail. Those productive listing is important. And it's important for what you said because then you can show up present. When you are doing your work with the intention of being productive and moving the ball down the field, then when you go to pick up your kids from school, guess what? You can be present in the car with them instead of thinking, okay, what all do I need to get from the grocery store? Who do I need to email? Did I send that proposal? You can say, who'd you sit with today at lunch? What did you guys talk about in science? Like whatever you would typically ask your child. You can show up for that conversation. And if there is a time that you have to take a phone call or something like that, they understand because that's a rarity instead of I get in the car and talk and mom doesn't even listen to me. Or your husband feels like I come home from work and she can't even hear when she asks, how was your day? Because she's doing all these other things. You can be present in the moment and then you can sleep at night, which sleep is so important. In fact, I told you, was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was just this morning we talked about sleep.
This morning when I said, I feel like I'm forgetting things and I don't know if I need something to assist my brain function or if I just need to get some more sleep. Because last week, my sleep took a huge hit and I could not get as many hours of sleep as I typically do. And I felt off. And so I think sleep is important. I think diet is important.
So let's go. So I told you at the very beginning of this podcast that I had a couple weeks that I just was consistently battling that feeling of overwhelm. I was using different techniques to get through it. So you mentioned breathing, and that was one of the techniques that I used pretty consistently of getting the big belly breaths, pulling that anxiety out of my chest and allowing just, I don't know what happens, the oxygen to like really flow through my body. That is a technique that I use a lot. I also, last week I found myself during some days that I had full schedules praying about it and praying that the Lord will multiply my time and energy.
Yes.
That is a very powerful prayer in my life. And so I don't have to use it every day, but the days I do, it's not just good for me to stay grounded, but also for him to hear the desire of my heart that I'm productive with the time I'm given.
Yes.
So is there any other strategies that you use that other than, what I just mentioned during those times of overwhelm, like some things that you can do to assist yourself to bring you to a place of calm?
Before I even get out of bed, as soon as so I set 2 alarms every morning. I set them 5 minutes apart. One, it helps me to sleep better because I know if I accidentally snooze one, another one's coming 5 minutes later. I learned that trick years ago and it's very helpful to me. But when the first one goes off, before I even get out of bed, I allow myself to think of and feel 3 things, I feel the gratitude for those 3 things. It may be an opportunity I'm going to have for the day. It may have been something that had happened yesterday. It may just be that I get to wake up today and I have breath in my lungs and I have a strong and healthy body. I mean, it's all over the place, but I intentionally think of those 3 things and allow myself to feel immense gratitude for those. I've heard that the first few moments of your day will set the tone for the rest of your day. Like where you take your mind. I usually, in my gratitude is prayer. So as I'm giving gratitude to the Lord for those things. But that totally changes because honestly, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I have so much to do today. Mm-hmm. And if I move forward in that, oh, I have so much to do today, mindset and attitude, everything is drudgery and not fun. And if I will just flip that switch early on and have gratitude for the opportunity and talk with the Lord about it, it changes. All of a sudden, what was drudgery is now excitement and enthusiasm around it. I move quicker. Mm-hmm. And also, too, don't seek other people's approval or acknowledgement for what you're doing when you get into these states where you start to feel overwhelmed. Like, look inside for that. Like, look inside, Lord, is this what you want me to do? Am I supposed to be involved in all these things? And that is something I ask myself often because I never want to overcommit my time. It goes back to when we talked about Proverbs 31 woman. Mm-hmm. Out of her savings of time and money, she built a fruitful vineyard. I don't want to own vineyards that have dead plants in them and dried up grapes, you know. I want to have fruitful vineyards in my life that are serving other people well. And I don't want acknowledgement and praise from other people that I do a lot of things. Does that make sense? For the sake of doing a lot of things. I want to benefit others. I want to make an impact. And if it's not something I feel called to do, I don't do it. I'll step away from it. And so I think that's important to acknowledge. Are you doing things just for the approval or like the acknowledgement of somebody else? Are you wearing busy as a badge of honor? Mm-hmm. If so, rip that badge off because it sucks to wear that badge. It's not a badge of honor. It's awful. I did that I thought like the busier I was, the better I was. Mm-hmm. That was horrible.
Yes.
Yeah, that was awful. So definitely taking a look at what you're involved into and then taking things off your plate that were never supposed to be on there. Mm-hmm. They will suck your energy quicker than anything else. And then asking yourself, why are you doing these things? Mm-hmm. And if it's not, if you don't like the answer, then don't do them.
Well, I loved Simmons Studio and the ability to create our podcast here. But I am so excited about all the life changes that you're going through right now and what that looks like to come. I mean, there's some really fun stuff to come, guys.
It will be fun.
But also remembering if you get into that place of overwhelm that you don't have to stay there.
Yes.
Recognizing that you are there and it's not a requirement, even if you have a lot going on, to stay in overwhelm and taking the steps that you need to take in order to bring yourself back to a place of peace. I think that we've all have times that we've been there and stayed there for a while, and it's just not a good place to be for ourselves or for our families.
Yeah.
So recognizing you don't have to stay there.
Absolutely. And having that person you can call to talk with, not to complain with every day or commiserate with, but talking it out with you today. Whenever it was, we weren't even face to face. It was through a Marco Polo.
Yeah, I love Marco Polo.
Yeah. And that's when I realized I have been forgetting things. I need to make this change. And there's no shame around it. There's no embarrassment. It's just, I should be on top of my game more, and I'm not right now. Is it sleep, or do I need...
Or even talking about the fact that you haven't been getting enough sleep. That's an acknowledgement. You're claiming out loud. You're owning it and then figuring out how to make a change in that situation.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So having peers that are like-minded help in that overwhelm. And that doesn't mean having people that once you complain, they love to go down the misery hole with you, because that can be super dangerous. So when I say like-minded, if you are in a dark place, finding a mentor is a better position for you to be in than finding somebody else that's in that dark place to hang with you.
Absolutely. For
yeah.
Sure.
Well, I'm super excited about all the life changes that you have going forward. And you still, even though we started talking about your life change, you gave us a bunch of great content on ways that we can prevent getting overwhelmed by having lots of events going on in our life. So thanks for inspiring us again.
Well, thank you too for all the podcasts we did in here and for doing this together. It's so fun. I remember when you asked me, do you want to start a podcast? I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of ideas. That had never even popped into my head for half a second. And then I was like, sure. We knew nothing about what we were doing.
No, we didn't.
It has been really fun. I remember when we were talking about where are we going to do this? And then we landed in here. And so it's been fun. This has been a special thing that happened. Maybe it was a selling feature of the house. They knew the podcast was recorded here. Yeah.
Well, and so in the future, we have some fun things coming ahead. We're going to take this show on the road a little, and we're excited about some conversations that we're going to have with other people. We'll be collaborating with some other people and kind of routing our location around until we find the new studio to settle in. So if you would like to learn more about our content, if you would like to learn more about coaching with us, then you can go to www.liveyourdesign.life to find out more information about what we do. And there's a contact form there. So if there's any questions you have or you want to get a hold of us, that's where you can go ahead and reach out. Have a great day.